A traditional pumped storage hydropower station is a kind of gravity battery, using water in an upper reservoir to store and release energy. This water can easily flow down from the elevated reservoir to spin turbines and generate electricity. However, it lacks the density of, say, concrete or lead. So what if the flexibility of flowing water and the high density of other materials could be combined? Well, that's the idea from RheEnergise and their R19 breakthrough for long-duration, clean energy storage. Gravity energy storage is brilliantly simple. It's how those original cuckoo clocks with the suspicious bird inside work. A heavy weight is lifted, and because of its height, it stores potential energy that's released as the weight descends, driving the clock's mechanisms. The same principle is used in closed-loop hydropower systems, where water goes up and down between contained reservoirs. Energy is generated during times of high demand by releasing water and spinning a turbine on the descent. The water is then pumped back up when there is excess energy on the grid, ready for another cycle. This is fundamentally how the RheEnergise system works too, but it has an innovative breakthrough that could make it more accessible and cheaper. Because although pumped storage is a beautifully simple technology that's been in use since 1907, it's limited by geography and cost. For me, one of the most stunning examples showing the scale of recent pumped storage is in the Swiss Alps. Opening in 2022 after 14 years hard graft, the 900 megawatt Nantes du Trans has a storage capacity of 20,000 megawatt hours, equal to 400,000 EV batteries. It's over 2,000 meters above sea level, and the height difference between reservoirs is more than 400 meters, with the upper reservoir holding 25 million cubic meters of water, or about 100 billion cups of tea. Sounds pretty good. Now, this is all well and good for countries that have the funds and geography to allow for these pumped hydro systems. But how can more places get access to this brilliant technology? This is where RheEnergise comes in with their Waterless hydro energy system that needs less height to produce the same amount of power as conventional pumped hydro. Therefore, it can work on small hills instead of mountains. It also requires much less liquid. I would argue it's not exactly waterless like the headlines suggest. The fluid going around the closed-loop hydro system is a type of slurry which does have some water content, but is about 2.5 times the density. Though in the headline's defense, if I asked for a glass of water and someone gave me a cup of slurry, I'd probably be pretty disappointed. The high density of this new fluid means the innovative liquid stores 2.5 times the energy using the same volume of liquid. To pack the same punch, RheEnergise estimates that storage tanks or reservoirs 60% smaller than conventional systems could be used. And that's not all. Because the fluid is more dense, it only requires 40% of the height difference between tanks to deliver the same power. If used at grid scale, more energy storage would give the growing supply of wind and solar somewhere to go when it's not needed, matching supply and demand. We really need long life, long duration, bulk energy storage that doesn't cost the earth to create or dispose of. This is the call RheEnergise is trying to answer. So who are RheEnergise? Well, like many of the companies trying to shake up the energy space, they're a startup. One of the co-founders, Professor Richard Cochran, was actually my supervisor during my undergrad. He sadly passed away in 2023, but his legacy lives on through many of his great projects. RheEnergise's brainchild is high-density hydro, which they say is low-cost, energy-efficient, and environmentally benign. They're looking at 10 to 50 megawatt projects and have identified 6,500 potential sites identified in the UK alone, where small hills can work the same magic as giant mountains, on smaller, more widespread scale. So how exactly does their new system work and differ from conventional closed-loop pump storage systems? So now let's have a closer look at their fluid and what that means for the general operation of the plant. The slurry has an ultra-fine milled powder of solid particles mixed into it, and a surfactant to keep it suspended. The high-density fluid is patented as R19, But what it is exactly is a closely guarded secret. All the company is saying is that it's so simple, it can be mixed on site using ultra cheap, readily available, and environmentally benign ingredients used in oral medication. You'd think that this dense, heavy, slurry mixture would be extremely viscous and thick, which would cause losses and inefficiencies as it flows through the pipe. But in fact, it's highly tuned to reduce the viscosity and allow it to flow surprisingly easily. You can see from this video that the viscosity, which is 20 centipoise, compared to water's 1, is still fairly fluid. It's not as thick as baby oil at 28 centipoise, or single cream at 65, let alone honey, which is 4000. Still, it is a bit thicker than water. RheEnergise say they can counteract the losses in efficiency which occur mainly in the pipes by making these pipes slightly thicker. I did some calculations that show the pipes only need to be about 25 to 30% thicker to account for the increased viscosity, so that checks out. I've left a link down to the calculations in the description in case you're interested. Being able to run quick calculations like that is such a useful skill, so before we check out one of the demonstrator plants for the R19 system, I want to tell you about today's sponsor Brilliant, who can help you run these sort of calculations too. Brilliant lets you learn by doing. By trying things at your own pace, you can gain a true understanding of maths, science and engineering to reach your goals, whether it's passing an exam, writing a thesis, or building a game-changing energy system. They have thousands of lessons from the basics up to the advanced that helped me during my studies to start understanding so many new topics. Brilliant is for everyone from students to professionals and lifelong learners. The lessons are super interactive, and the bite-sized sections will help you meet your goals in between everything else you have in your schedule. Understanding the interplay between forces, materials, and time is a complex topic, but Brilliant's hands-on approach lets you tackle it in an easy way whether you're a beginner or more advanced in your current knowledge. It's great fun, and you may find that learning soon becomes habitual, with fantastic real-world things to get your hands on, like this lesson that lets you play around with pricing data for electric vehicles. Whether it's for career progression or your own curiosity, you should definitely check out Brilliant at my link, brilliant.org/Zeroth, which will be down in the description, to get 30 days free and 20% off an annual plan. Okay, now back to RheEnergise's R19 system. One challenge for this idea is that high-density fluids in pumped storage are more sensitive to changes in temperature, so should be kept within an optimal range throughout operation. Cold weather increases the viscosity, making it harder for the fluid to flow around, so controlling temperature is really important. This temperature control is done using a heating element or excess heat from the turbines, ensuring the temperature remains within optimal ranges despite the weather conditions. Though I can imagine in some locations this energy demand to keep it warm could get extremely high, so it might be better suited for some warmer climates. Large pumped hydro with water can mitigate some freezing effects because they have deep reservoirs that only freeze on the top meter or so, but it's not clear how the R19 fluid would react in this scenario. Another concern is that the water and solids in the R19 fluid could separate over time. To prevent this, particles must be extremely finely milled. It also helps to keep the liquid moving, which I'm guessing would be easily achieved because it would be pumped up and down between the reservoirs. While all this pencil pushing and calculations is interesting, will it actually work in the real world? Well, there's already been a first demo on a ski hill in Canada validating the idea. At the same elevation, the power obtained from the R19 system compared to water was double. Water could only achieve the same power output and storage capacity when the elevation was double that of the high density fluid, proving that their fluid only needs half the elevation. And now construction of a 500 kilowatt demonstrator has started in England at a mining site outside of Plymouth. It's scheduled to be operating very soon. If it works, it will help the mine secure its energy needs and at the same time decarbonize some of the operations, although they're not saying by how much. Hopefully I might be able to visit this in the future and give you an on-site update. RheEnergise sees mines as a great place to use this technology because they already have elevation differences and experience working with slurries. RheEnergise CEO Stephen Crosher said they plan to have a 10 megawatt grid-scale project in operation within 2 years. The future vision is to have power ratings of at least 100 megawatts by 2030. These will apparently be able to deliver power for 2 to 10 hours. I also read about a partnership RheEnergise is part of to create a microgrid coupled with solar power that will provide round-the-clock renewable energy to a collective of apple farmers in South Africa's Western Cape. I couldn't find anything about its progress, but it would be an interesting application for places where the national grid isn't always reliable, or small-scale operations who just want to run on clean energy. From what I've seen, there are 4 main benefits that make this idea worth pursuing. One is that with its increased energy density, high-density hydro is more agile and could be more quickly and easily constructed. 2 is that it could reduce the environmental footprint if done responsibly due to smaller reservoir needs, which are about the size of a football pitch. There's also little to recycle and less rare earth metals compared to batteries. 3 is RheEnergise's innovation builds on well-established pump storage technology, which could improve its chances of success and reduce R&D costs. And last but not least, cost, which RheEnergise says is much cheaper than conventional pump storage because of its simplicity, the abundance of materials, reduced volume requirements, and minimal installation costs. As with conventional pumped hydro, it's also better for long duration storage because there's no inherent leaks or degradation like you have with lithium-ion batteries. RheEnergise say they have a projected levelized cost of storage, which is the average lifetime cost of electricity stored of around $150 per megawatt hour, compared to a lithium-ion battery project of $205 per megawatt hour. Also, compared to lithium-ion's 85 to 90% round-trip efficiency, a RheEnergise pumped storage system can achieve apparently 83% grid-to-grid efficiencies. If it can be done at these costs and with all the environmental benefits they claim, I'd love to see it succeed. But will the temperature controls work long term? Will the fluids cause problems as they continuously go around the closed loop? As with all of these innovations, only time will tell. As you're still watching, please consider subscribing. It's free, will keep you up to date and help support the channel. Also, I think you might like some of the other videos I make, like this one on whether domes are the future of desalination. Also, don't forget to check out today's sponsor Brilliant, and as always, thanks for watching.